Cutter portfolios like the rest of us?
No cookie-cutter portfolios here. Fisher Investments tailors portfolios to meet each client's goals and needs.
But you do sell investments that earn you high commissions, right? And make commissions when you make trades for your clients?
No, Fisher Investments doesn't sell any commission investment products, and we never earn commissions on trades.
So what's in it for you?
Fisher Investments fees are structured so we do better when our clients do better. When it comes to helping clients achieve a comfortable retirement, we're clearly different. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you switch to us. Fisher Investments, clearly different money management.
Investments in securities involve the risk of loss.
It's time for the Big Iron Farm Show. The Midwest's largest ag show is coming to the Red River Valley Fairgrounds September 12th through the 14th. Come out and watch live demonstrations, explore over 500 exhibitors, learn the latest in agricultural industry, and hear from industry leaders. Plus, all your food favorites will be there too. It's the 43rd annual Big Iron Farm Show, September 12th through the 14th, presented by Cass County Farm Bureau. For more information, visit BigIronFarmShow.com.
Weather and Ag in Focus on WDAY Radio.
We got some free stuff. A lot of it's already gone, but we got plenty of it left around. Right?
We got a couple rain gauges.
Got a couple rain gauges, some hats, some stickers, all sorts of fun stuff.
We're going to have to think of a contest for the rain gauge.
Yeah, we'll have to think of something here during the show. Well, as I said, we got some fun things that are coming up on the show. Bridgette, do you want to introduce to our guests that'll be joining us here in just a couple of minutes?
Well, I will if I could stop hacking coughing here in the background, so I'll do what I can. But Tillage Tuesday is here today. Excuse me. And so we've got Jason Hanson and Larry Lunder joining us. And I'm just going to ask Jason to describe Tillage Tuesday for us.
Okay. So you ever been, if you're on social media and something starts and you don't know when it started and it just kind of grows legs on its own, that is what we did. And it's kind of a back and forth between me and my friend Larry. And we take opposing viewpoints. So if you're into professional wrestling, you know there's a good guy and a bad guy. I am the bad guy.
You are the bad guy. Okay, and so for us, this is something that just creates discussion for everybody because you're on opposing sides. And so, Larry, why? What are you doing? Where does your side come from? Probably your proximity to where you live?
My side comes from covering western North Dakota and Montana and seeing limited amounts of rainfall and not wanting the moisture for the crop to disappear. Plus, anytime I can oppose Jason, it's a fun time.
So we're going to get a battle between you two today.
It isn't just today.
Well, it'll be a special battle for us.
For you, it will be. It'll be a prime time on over the air.
I got a front row seat. Dean's going to go get popcorn. We're just going to sit back and watch.
So Larry said moisture. That's important in western North Dakota. What's it going to look like here for the next 2 days?
You want to run with this?
Yeah, why don't you run on down the forecast, Dean? I don't think there's much rain in the forecast outside of
a little
tomorrow.
A little bit tomorrow.
That's not great.
That's about it. We've got a beautiful day today. Temperatures will reach up into the low to mid 70s with a southeast wind about 10 to 20. A little gusty at times. Not nearly as chilly. There were some areas that saw frost this morning. It was kind of chilly. We didn't see it here in the FM area.
I'll tell you what, there's a lot of dense fog up in Grand Forks.
There was a lot of dense fog up north, and we had some of that creep just west of the valley as well. We won't have to worry about that tomorrow morning. We're going to be in the 50s for lows, and then clouds increase tomorrow ahead of a cold front with temperatures, it looks like mid-70s tomorrow. As that cold front swings through, we'll see an isolated shower or thunder shower in the afternoon, a tenth to maybe a quarter of an inch at most, but I think more or less a tenth of an inch. You get caught under a thunder shower, you'll get a little more. And then dry weather for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, temperatures low 70s, beautiful conditions. And then next week we'll warm up, it looks like, into the low 80s for a day or so. And then a pretty vigorous storm system may come our way as we head towards the middle of next week, possibly giving us a little more widespread rain. We'll wait and see. I mean, that's still a week away, so We'll see how that pans out. But I still don't see any big dumps of cold air coming in from Canada. No widespread freezes, nothing like that. So
that's good.
We've got some nice fall weather that's heading our way.
That's good for a lot of the home gardens out there, finishing up their productions. I know our tomatoes are just kind of ripening right now. Same with the peppers. So
did you cover them up because you guys you were in the mid-30s the other morning?
I got lucky. No frost.
So hold on, as you have two agronomists from different parts of the state, Jason being north of Devil's Lake, Larry being out by Mandan. What happens if it frosts in your neighborhoods, you guys? What is going to happen to the crop where you live?
It could be problematic for some of the later planted corn, possibly some sunflowers. We'd like to have, if I could get 10 more days, I'd really be happy. I think we'd be pretty much to physiological maturity, and then it'd be just a matter of getting it to start to dry down. But it'd be just a little sooner than I'd care for a frost right now, to be honest.
Well, I got to say the opposite of Larry because that's just how the day is going to go. I like to hear that weather with the moisture coming in. We'll take another 2 inches here in about 10 days from now. That'd be awesome. For us, we would probably lose test weight off of some of our corn. We could go a little longer without having that, but our beans are ready. I've got sunflowers that probably next week we're going to desiccate. So if it froze, so be it. So we're kind of at the stage. I know you had more rain out your way in Mandan than we did in Devil's Lake this year. So we're kind of probably further along than we would normally be.
Mm-hmm. So being out at Big Iron, we have watched lots and lots of equipment as we've driven by today in the golf cart. And I even slowed down so some of you could see it and it wasn't just a blur when we went through the show. But the whole point of our discussion today is some folks don't necessarily know what tillage means and why we do or don't do it. And that's where you two, again, living in different parts of the state, why it's important to each one. So if you think about what we're doing, probably the most current event that we're going to have is going to be fall after after harvest tillage. Okay, Jason, why would you have guys who wanted to go out and tillage, turn the earth post harvest?
And being as we're short on moisture, it's really held off, and that's been a good thing, actually. And we probably need to get more rain to do that. But if we do, I know that people will get out, and that's what they're going to do. So in an area where you have generally heavier clay soils that hold moisture, you kind of want to have a position coming into spring where there's probably a little bit of black on that field so that you can get into those fields. So lighter soil types, you're in the opposite position. But it is, I'll say this, tillage can be beneficial. It can also be a habit.
Like a bad habit?
Well, sometimes. Ask this guy.
Okay, so Larry, where you're out covering western North Dakota into Montana, you have reasons why you would like to see people not use tillage.
Yes, mainly because we might not be able to replace that moisture. We've been very fortunate this year to have large amounts of moisture, probably above normal in a lot of cases.
Right.
But that's not always the case, and with dryland farming, I've never figured out how you replace something that you have no control over. And I have growers that'll use strip till. Mm-hmm. That's to put a little, about 4-inch wide strip across and have that band in the field, perhaps put fertilizer down at the same time, which is what they usually do. And then you have quite a bit of residue. That works very well.
For moisture conservation.
Moisture conservation keeps things from eroding, but that's in my career, it's been critical. It's been the number one problem to do is to manage moisture. Most times we're struggling with moisture, so that's why I'm not that excited when somebody tills a field.
Okay, so we're not going to till because of moisture. That's one idea. But then also, you guys mentioned erosion. And we know that there's a lot of highly erodible soils all the way across the state. We've got trouble with there's a reason why, anyway, that we went to CRP in some situations, right? So when you're in a no-tilling system, some of those benefits, what do those look like in your neighborhood, Larry?
You benefit from, obviously, one, moisture conservation. Leaving residue can help you catch snow during the winter, which helps put moisture onto that field. Another benefit from it would be, as you do less tillage, you tend to have less weed pressure.
Right.
You tend to shallow up the weed seeds that you do have. It just improves, and then, the buildup of organic matter. There's a lot of positives to, to what's going on in the soil. And like I always come back to, it's water. If it's three things, it's water, it's water, it's water.
Those are going to be our biggest hang-ups there.
It's somewhere, too, where we get into an area where we're going to probably do some fall fertilizer. And there's some tillage that's used to cover that up, right? So in ag, there's a lot of balances, right? So he's dealing with a moisture issue. I'm probably dealing with, in most cases, excess. I'm trying to cover up stuff. There's a lot of things out there right now where like nitrous oxide emissions.
Right. That's a big question.
It's a big question, right? So what are you doing there? So some people will say, well, in Larry's country, they're going to use a lot of glyphosate in a burn down situation. We might see more tillage. There's this balance. But then we're working the ground to cover for fertility, or we're using it to get our fields prepped for next year. So what is the best way to do it? Erosion is probably one of the state's worst things that we can deal with, because all the stuff that moves when soil is blowing is all the good stuff. It's the frosting on the cake, it's the bacon on the bacon cheeseburger, it's the hops in your beer. Okay, that's what's moving when it's going.
That's the problem right there. Okay, so when you're thinking about what's going on in the fields, one other point that you made was weed control. Okay. You both see weed problems, and especially kochia, getting worse and worse every year. How can tillage play into that in any way? I mean, we don't want to disturb the soil for good reasons, for moisture control and for erosion. What do we do when we don't have another method for some weed control?
Yeah, so from my standpoint, we'll have a lot of fields that'll get harrowed, right? So that's like a comb, essentially. You're going out there and you're distributing the straw evenly within the field. Or you might use a Selford. And a Selford is going to kind of prep the field, but it doesn't really till. Not really weed control there. And a lot of people have those. Or they have a speed disc, a quick till, a pro till, a joker. That cuts a lot of stuff. You can get a lot of erosion from that. It's fast. I don't necessarily see a lot of weed control there. And some of the older stuff that we're used to, our age demographic, people just don't I see less chisel plowing going on.
Right.
Less field cultivator, some other things. So it's shifted, and I don't see as much weed control with tillage as I used to.
And he forgot to mention the tillage implements of all tillage implements, the Wysocki disc.
Oh, that's my favorite.
If you wanted to control weeds and pulverize a field, that was your implement. But yeah, then again, I can kind of play devil's advocate and say, as we've used more and more glyphosate over time, we all know we've developed some issues with that too.
Right.
So it's a balance to try to make everything work like it should. And the erosion is a big thing, because the issue I have is if you're driving down I-94 and you're somebody that's not really involved in ag and you can't see for more than 10 feet because the field is blowing,
right,
that's a problem. That's going to bring you attention you don't want. So it's a matter of being a good steward of the soil as well. But tillage is just less used. It was effective in certain things. It certainly was effective in controlling a lot of the brome grasses that will plague wheat fields now. Once upon a time, if you tilled in the fall, we didn't know what brome grass. We didn't know.
Right,
Smooth brome, Japanese brome wasn't a problem. So it does do some things, but it's the big thing. The big thing is people are trying to conserve moisture. They're trying to produce better crops than they could once upon a time, and holding on to the moisture is key to that.
Okay, so I had a listener this morning walk by and suggest that we talk about why summer fallow would be a good project for us next year instead of just raising soybeans. But I think we have to explain summer fallow, because I'm not sure that maybe everybody understands what that is. So we'll do that right when we come back, so stick with us. We'll continue with Weather and Ag in Focus next.
Livestock trade mostly lower as we near the afternoon close. You're listening to the American Ag Network of Jesse Allen with this market update. Let's take a look at what's going on in livestock here as we're wrapping up our trade on this Wednesday. Mostly lower in cattle and hogs, especially feeders with triple-digit losses creeping into that side of the market. Feeder cattle index is up 46, 250.88, but the hog index, that's down 4, 86.13. Now, overall, cash cattle market hasn't seen much action develop, and at this point, it's looking like the bulk of this week's trade is going to be delayed until Thursday, if not potentially even later. Now, packers have only bought the bare minimum of cattle in the cash market over the last 3 weeks, and they'll likely need to be more aggressive here this week. That's something that remains to be seen. But overall, again, fairly quiet trade so far and quiet in futures. Box beef prices mixed with choice down 16 cents, 307.87. Select up $1.24, 285.02 per hundredweight. Over on the hog side, complex trading lower here as we're nearing the wrap-up of our day's action. Pork cutout values down 79 at 141. Market just not getting a consistent, steady follow-through support here today, and we're taking some profit from yesterday's gains. You're listening to the American Ag Network.
In today's troubled world, our USA Armed Forces stand ready to protect you, your family, and our American way of life. When veterans return to civilian life, they deserve your recognition and support. You can help put vets to work by donating your car, truck, or van to Patriotic Hearts. Your donation will directly support programs to help vets find jobs or even start their own business. Donate today for fast, free pickup of your vehicle, running or not. Operators are standing by to answer questions about making a tax-deductible vehicle donation. Find out how you can make a difference in the life of a United States veteran. Call 800-209-6416 for 24-hour response. Call 800-209-6416. 800-209-6416. That's 800-209-6416.
Let's take a look at some of the numbers on the futures board right now. October live cattle down 117, 182.97. December down 77 at 187.67. Feeder cattle September down 192, 253.40. October down 237, 258.87. Hogs October 137 lower, 83.90. December down 60 at 76.30. February hogs down 15 at 80.10. In the grains, we see corn and wheat holding fairly steady up moderately here with some short covering in wheat leading the way. Soybeans mixed right around unchanged. Crude oil down 48 cents, 88.36. This is the American Ag Network.
Weather and Ag in Focus on WDAY Radio.
That was no gal.
Well done.
Welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus live from Big Iron, and the fun rolls on here in the Morton building. So glad you were joining us. And if you happen to be out here at Big Iron, please swing by to say hi, because you have both meteorologists, Dean and Justin, myself, Bridgette, the Ag Director, and we have guests today, the guys who talk about Tillage Tuesday every day on, or well, it has become every day on Twitter. It started out as just Tuesday, but it kind of carried over the whole week. And before I go into our next cash crop for our Here We Grow project, thank you to the sponsors that we've had this year for that project. And two of those sponsors would indeed be Dakota Bank. They are a bank that has recently started a location in Fargo. They are a large regional ag lending institution. Check out what they have to offer today. And additionally, ND Estate Services, because if you don't have things lined up, nobody wants to have to wait through probate, etc. Make sure you contact Mark Wagner at ND Estate Services today. If you have questions for us while we're talking about Tillage Tuesday, you're welcome to reach us at 701-293-9000. That's the Red Wing Shoe phone line. And earlier this morning, I had a listener stop me and say, why don't you suggest to Justin that instead of soybeans next year for your Here We Grow project, y'all ought to have summer fallow? Now, you're not old enough to know it.
Is that like regular fowl?
I dated a gal named Summer Fowl.
I don't know if that's where we're headed, guys.
No, it's wrong? No, okay. All right. It was back in the day. It was college. It was in college.
I'm sure.
Talking about ducks, right?
Right. That's
Yeah.
not even close. Okay, so I'm going to ask Larry. You and I recall this quite well, summer fallow. So does Jason, for that matter. But can you describe for Justin what's summer fallow?
Well, summer fallow is basically idling a field for a year, not growing a crop on it. And there's a couple ideas behind it. The biggest one was trying to build some moisture up for the crop for the next year, and then maybe in certain situations getting some weeds under control. Say you had wild oat issues. And they would tend to, in the early days, they would work it several times throughout the growing season. Issue being with that is, one, you destroyed your organic matter because you were constantly tilling it away, and the phosphate levels tended to really dive on there. You'd get something called fallow syndrome, which is part of the reason fertilizer got popular. Triple superphosphate, 18460 were some of the first fertilizers. So that was the idea, but that's how people used to make crops before we commercially fertilized a lot. Is they would make summer fallow, but you had cases where things would erode on you as well, because as we broke up the prairie soils and we chewed all those millions and millions of years of organic matter up and nitrogen up, we exhausted the nitrogen supply until we could figure out a way to commercially supply it again. You had to do things such as that to build up nitrogen. So that was summer fallow. Never knew a gal named Summer Fallow. I must have went to college someplace different.
Probably for the best.
And when we were on break, we were talking about some of the examples of things that we lived through in the summer fallow years. And Jason, you even mentioned that as well. And it was sort of a badge of honor to be the kid that was constantly in the field, right?
Yeah, I grew up in the 80s, and our farm, that was part of it. And so if you remember the PIC program, there was a
pick and roll.
Pick and roll. You set aside a certain percentage of that farm, and that's what you did. Just like Larry, we would go out. It's like Dad would say, okay, today you're going to go out and you're going to work this. And you'd have a 20, 25-foot chisel plow that you put sweeps on. And so these sweeps are, they're
like a V-shaped sweep.
Yep. And so you're cutting underneath the roots to bring the plant up to the surface where it would die. And that was just part of what you did. And now, if there's prevent a plant, right, you get too much water, what you hope is that it doesn't be left just black the whole year. So there's more people that are probably going to go out and seed something on it to keep it from blowing. Or you're going to plant something on it as a crop like a radish or a turnip so that you use that moisture. Because if you have a lot of moisture on a field and you can't grow anything and it gets put into preventive plant on crop insurance, if you get any amount of snow or rainfall the next spring, that field is wet for the planting season. So you got to manage it that way. So I prefer if you and I got a few acres of fallow this year, and it's got stuff intentionally grown on it to make sure that we can have the ability, better chance of getting in next year.
So you're calling it summer fallow, but you actually have a cover crop planted?
Yeah, it is. Yep. Now this is my soil sampling year, and we've had, I remember a wet fall where I had 3 types of cover. I had nothing, where it was just sprayed. You just sprayed it and kept the weeds off. It was black as a tar road. We'd go out and seed some barley, and that would, if it got to probably boot stage, or so it's almost heading, you'd probably would dry out the top foot. And then I had somebody who went out and they put radish and turnips, and that was beautiful. You could sample down 2 feet. It was just like unbelievable. And those fields were nice to get into in the spring, where the one that was sprayed was like you couldn't. It was still too wet.
Right. Still couldn't get into that one. Okay. So do you want to raise summer fallow next year?
There's no money to be made in it.
Yeah, I have. I got something else in mind.
Okay.
There is a dollar amount. It just has a negative sign in front of it.
And that was a weed control method. We didn't spend money on herbicides necessarily, as we just used diesel fuel through the tractor.
You just dumped diesel on the field?
No, you ran diesel in the tractors. You pulled your tillage tools around. And like the guys were saying, there's so many examples of what we use, like big heavy discs. If you had field cultivator sweeps, if it was a chisel plow, that was determined kind of your pass across the field and how your width and breadth of scope.
And if you go way back, I don't think we had an actual moldboard plow on our farm, but we had I remember my dad talking about a Surflex. And there you'd go around the field like you would mow your lawn. And it's kind of it's a disc that has a wheel in the back, so you get that dead furrow. So it's very similar to probably in concept what like a lot of quick tills, tills are nowadays. Just that it was a lot smaller and a lot slower than what it is now, and deeper. Where now we're doing much more shallow tillage.
As a kid who ran a plow, but also in that small failure that farm dads weren't really good explainers. He just put me in the tractor and said, "Go out there and dig this." Right, it was the first pass of the year. This is how you're getting the summer fallow set up. He didn't tell me how to turn a certain way, or you'd rip that whole back wheel off right through the center hub. Lesson learned, people. Lesson learned.
And how many times did you do this?
Only once, because believe me, I learned real quick.
Yeah. It was twice. It was the first time and the last time.
So again, we are Weather and Ag in Focus today on WDAY. We are live out at Big Iron. We are in the Morton building. Feel free to stop by. We've been talking about tillage. Now we should probably talk about some of those implements and things that are out there around the show, things that we've been seeing, practices that might be changing, and we will continue to do that when we come back. So stick with us.
Don't start harvest off with sore feet. Stop in and purchase a pair of Red Wing boots. Hi, Teresa here from the Fargo Red Wing Shoe Store. If you're planning on coming to Fargo for Big Iron, make sure to put Red Wing shoes and custom insoles on the top of your list. Nothing's worse than sore feet during harvest. Stop in and check out our vast selection of styles and colors. You'll be surprised. 3003 Main Avenue in Fargo. Red Wing shoes for ultimate durability.
Bridgette Readel, Ag Director here at Big Iron. Join myself, Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki, and Meteorologist Justin Storm. We'll be broadcasting Weather and Ag in Focus live from the Morton building. Stop by and meet us today from 1 to 2 p.m. That's Weather and Ag in Focus live from the Morton building. Stop by and meet us today from 1 to 2 p.m.
Let the Goose River Bank become your community bank. They believe a strong bank builds strong communities and would be proud to be your bank.
Good afternoon, I'm Tom Tucker, WDAY News First. A 68-year-old woman is dead after being struck by a truck while crossing a street in Fargo this morning.
By the time we arrived on scene, the pedestrian was confirmed to be a fatality victim. And North Dakota Highway Patrol is going to take lead investigation on the crash.
North Dakota Highway Patrol Sergeant Christian Helgo speaking at the scene of the crash. It happened at 13th Avenue South and 32nd Street Southwest. Charges are under consideration for the male driver who struck the woman. An after-school coordinator for a West Fargo Catholic school has been arrested on a child pornography charge. The investigation into 25-year-old Joshua Bowman began last year when the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children allegedly connected a video depicting child sex abuse to Bowman's Snapchat account. According to court documents, Bowman possessed 2 child sex abuse videos, one of which he allegedly shared with 2 other people. Bowman was arrested Monday on a felony charge of possessing materials prohibited by law. He's being held at the Cass County Jail. The search for a missing Fargo man who jumped into the Red River has been called off. The incident began when police responded to a disturbance near the river Monday afternoon. Once on scene, officers encountered a man who ran from them and jumped into the river. Tom Tucker, WDAY, and WDAYRadioNow.com.
Boost your crop's health with Domar 230ME and Badge SC fungicide exclusively from Gowan, USA. Domark's systematic action teams up with Badge's outstanding mixing properties for unbeaten disease control on sugar beets, dried edible beans, and canola. Experience the power of 2 different modes of action with Domark and Badge. Don't wait. Contact your local ag retailer and ask about Domar 230ME and Badge SC. Always read and follow label directions from Gowan, USA.
No games, no gimmicks, no bull. At Luther Family Buick GMC, our inventory is clearly marked with rock-bottom prices. Every vehicle, every day, all month long. Take home a brand new Sierra with rates as low as 0.9%. Or check out the exciting new Buick Envista. Get the best vehicles at the best prices with no games, no gimmicks, no bull. Luther Family Buick GMC, I-29 and 32nd Avenue, South Fargo. We are professional grade.
This is Weather and Ag in Focus with Bridgette Readel, Justin Storm, and Dean Wysocki.
And welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. I want to thank everybody for joining us. 1:34, and we're out live here at Big Iron. Join us in the Morton building, and We have a question for you guys. Now, we have one of our listeners, John. And, John, if you're listening, we're going to throw this question out there for you. And Bridgette just rolls her eyes every time we bring this up. Instead of Tillage Tuesday, one of our viewers, John, says it's Chemtrail Spray Tuesday, where that's when the government sprays aloft and tries to poison us. So I'll ask this question for John, if John's listening. What does this do to crops if, in fact, this is true?
Oh, man. I tell you what. I see a lot of this too. So here's my opinion on that, right? So where's it coming from? Is it out of the fuel? Because you're not flying on anything that's got a boom, right? There's no boom on any piece of equipment up there. So yeah, you wonder about stuff like that. What it's doing? It's not doing anything. It's my son was a pilot. Yeah, you get all that kind of stuff too. So. Maybe they got an anvil here at Big Iron. I can go put my head in and drop it on. I don't know. That's my personal opinion on that. So I don't know. If maybe I'll get my hate mail like you do now, Larry.
So John, if you're listening, there's your answer, buddy.
That's my answer.
Okay.
Yeah. No, one of the things that if you look at over. Whatever. I mean, you turn the news on, and as an agronomist, one of the things you hear constantly is probably anything related to climate change, right? Mm-hmm. And so some of the things that I see, it seems like our springs are starting later and our falls are going farther into the fall, like a frost-free date, it seems like. Some variability. Up in the Devil's Lake area, hey, man, I went through a 25-year wet cycle, and so now we're finally getting things have changed. It feels like since 21, where it's gotten a lot drier. So that'll change, and I will say that from a tillage standpoint, I have a lot less from when I was a kid to now. It's dramatically different
in terms of what, moisture, snow.
In terms of I have less tillage being done. And I think a lot of it in the last 3 years is because people are just realizing that we're not, it was nothing to get you 3-inch rain. It was just like you didn't even bat an eye at that. Mm-hmm. We had a lot of snow this last winter, but we didn't the winter before. Right. So there's just a lot of, and I think that's just, when you look at averages, we forget, we think of it in terms of, maybe 10 years. And averages
30.
There's just way longer.
Oh, and they talk about climate a lot as well, but they use that 30-year average to compare it to, and it's like, well, climate is more than just 30 years worth of average. I mean, things change so much every decade with the weather patterns, but you use that climate 30-year average as a reference point, and it should be a lot larger than just the 30 years because, Bridgette, wasn't it back in what year was it? It was, I think it was the 80s. It was super wet, and that's kind of smudged our quote-unquote averages because of those few years that were overly wet.
Well, actually, it started in the early 90s, right? And so, all of us were in agronomy at the time, and you started looking in probably 92, 93, but we did have a severe drought in North Dakota in the late 80s, and that's probably where a lot of our mindset about tillage and conservation comes from. I mean, Larry, you weren't out to Western North Dakota yet at that time, were you?
I came out in 91. I graduated college in 88. What a glorious cropping year to get out of North Dakota State that was. And that was 2 years of drought, and then we slowly started coming out of it. Then 92, we got a late season rain that started in June and rescued the crop. 93 was extremely wet, and we've had some wet years and some dry years in between. I'd say overall we've done better, but then we've changed. I've seen the practices go from turning fields about as residue free as you can after you've planted to still having a fair amount of residue on there. So we've done things differently. Hybrids, varieties have improved. So it's a combination of things that have made a difference.
I want to ask you guys something. You started back in the early 90s around here. Bridgette, maybe you can answer this first, but has there been a lot of different kind of variations in the plants that we grow from 90s to early 2000s to today? And I'm referencing drought-tolerant or intolerant, heat-tolerant kind of crop varieties.
Oh, I think that answer is yes. All three of us
Absolutely.
Would likely say that.
So how much of a difference has that been making in yields and production across the state over these last 20 years from bouncing between drought and not drought and drought and not drought, and then just averaging out, this is how much we usually get every year. How have those varieties kind of been playing a factor in the types of weather patterns that we've had?
I think what I look for when we evaluate some hybrids or varieties is we're going to look for something that can perform pretty consistently well when conditions are good, but even more so when conditions are tough. And I think a lot of companies have went in that direction. That's the type of genetics we're looking for to put in the field. So that has improved a lot. Again, like I said, the practices, it's a combination of genetics, practices. Those are the two biggest things. And rotation solves a lot of headaches. I mean, you can run into moisture issues if you continuously grow a full season crop like corn. And you run into problems if you grow a short season crop like wheat continuously, other issues. It's a matter of having that right rotation and having the right practices. And it's a matter for the soils you're farming and where you're farming. You have to understand that, and the good farmers know what they're doing, where they're doing, and not every practice is going to be successful across every farm. You have to adapt it to where you're farming, the climate you farm in.
Now, do you guys know already what you're going to plant for next year? And I got a follow-up question, kind of that.
Most people have a pretty good idea of what they're going to do.
So we use the LRC for long-term forecasting, and the new cycle starts here first week of October. So by late November, we should know what the spring and what the next summer will entail in terms of moisture. Can you change? Like, let's say the LRC is predicting a very dry summer going into a dry spring and summer. Can you flip the crops if you need to?
You're gonna. So we have canola coming up our way right now. That will probably go to barley, wheat, or corn. Those three choices. Any soybeans come off. Those are probably your three there too. If you're coming out of wheat, barley, it depends on if you had canola there last year. You're probably going to go to a soybean because you want to keep that. Now, some people will chase maybe a market a little bit on some of their acres, but if you know it's going to be dry, a lot of it will depend on just, I think, how much moisture you're going to come into this fall. And then, if you're talking that weather pattern that might come in and we got a lot of rain, most people, they'll stick with a rotation and roll the dice because, like Larry says, these corn varieties now, they're way more water efficient. They're way more nitrogen efficient. Canola, when it first came out, was all open pollinated. And, boy, you got a hot streak of weather during flowering, and it was toast. And now we're raising 200-pound canola up our way on like 4 inches of rain. And everybody's like, how did this happen? When I grew up, it was durum, it was barley, and it was sunflowers, and then it was your fallow.
Oh, flax. Don't forget flax.
Oh, yes. Wouldn't want to forget that.
Right.
But flax was treated like the bad habit that you got because it was put in the sloughs and it was seeded last, and you didn't fertilize it. Now, wheat, 2-row barley, 6-row barley, soybeans, canola, corn, sunflowers, edible beans, faba beans, sometimes flax. The diversity in crops that have come out has given people a lot more advantage, I think, to go after markets.
But even in Western North Dakota, because most folks have a mindset that all we raise west of Bismarck is wheat.
No, that's really not the case. We raise pulse crops. We raise soybeans to a certain extent beyond the Missouri River. Certainly raise corn, raise sunflowers, lentils, buckwheat. I can go on down the line. And, you talk about the key to, these are the weather patterns. The best defense you have against the weather, or the best way to manage it, is to rotate crops, put cool season crops in, put late season crops in, because for the most part, at some point in the year it rains. So the question is, are you going to have a crop there? Or are you going to roll the dice and think you're going to understand the weather better than even the people that predict it, that don't always get it exactly right, and think you're going to be smarter than the weather?
We know some of those people. We know a few.
Yeah.
I think they're saying you guys don't get the weather right.
I don't think they were talking about us.
Okay,
that was a general statement on meteorology, but the point being is, you're more likely to miss big if you rotate enough over a long period. You're going to do better financially. I've always believed that on the farm, and I think that's a key to a successful farmer. If you're going to be if you think you can outguess the weather in the markets, you're going to be really sadly disappointing.
If you want a weatherproof and market-proof, you just put in safflower.
There you go.
Oh.
Well, there's only a select few individuals, actually one east of the Missouri, that can do that.
So what you two don't know, Justin and Dean, is that literally on Twitter we goaded a friend farmer into planting safflower this year. Yeah.
How's that working out?
Well, so there's some things you should know about safflower.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, so safflower, not exactly your most friendly crop, to say perhaps. If you're going to walk safflower, you should wear like leather chaps because it's a little bit like walking a thistle field.
It makes candy. It makes Canada thistle feel like cotton candy.
So what's the point of growing this then?
What
are you getting out of it?
It's an oil, probably crushed for an oil. Or if you go in this winter and you you feed birds during the winter, and there's a little kind of a banana-shaped white seed in there, that's safflower.
Mm-hmm.
Birds love it.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be grown in some really hostile climates. I mean, it'll taproot down, I believe, 6 feet and better.
Wow.
So it can go down and hit water that nothing else will. You generally tend to see it more probably eastern Montana, northwest South Dakota, western North Dakota, and I'm talking west of the Missouri. But occasionally somebody will roll the dice after somebody goats them into doing it. Maybe
Jason. Of rolling the dice, are you rolling good right now? Or is this like, I really wish I wouldn't have done this?
It was combine today.
Yeah, and he didn't plug the combine.
No, he didn't plug it. It actually turned out fairly decent.
I mean, for a safflower crop, I thought it was pretty darn good myself.
Safflower crop.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we're talking small scale here, guys.
Yes.
This was not gonna.
Yeah,
this was not gonna affect the farm.
Yeah.
You don't got 12,000
no.
growing?
And this is what we do to our friends. So just think about it with the people we don't like.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean,
you don't want to get on our bad side. I'll tell you that much.
These two are friends, and they battle it out on Twitter every Tuesday just over tillage.
Oh man!
And when we quit, it's like lost masses on there. Where are you guys?
Yeah, what are you doing?
Where you been?
Where's
What's
my
going?
entertainment?
Is Jason sick?
Well, speaking of these kind of weird, unusual crops, between down here, Bridgette, up in the Devil's Lake Basin, out in western North Dakota, but besides the common and the kind of slightly uncommon crops that are growing, what are some of the more unique things that some individuals are growing up here? Is there anything that just kind of sticks out like, man, I did not think someone would be growing that here?
Well, there's getting to be, Bridgette and I, we ran across a couple fields of buckwheat
last week. And you just generally don't see that as a crop. It may be in more of a cover crop scenario.
Mm-hmm. There's getting to be some more Carantina and some winter canola that'll be planted. So some specialty things out there. You get into certain varieties that'll be like an omega-3 specialty oils that they're looking for, that type of thing. I'm always paying attention when I come up and down the valley because to me, sugar beets are a specialty crop, and it's just the operation of that whole thing. I mean, a crop that basically kind of runs a region is kind of interesting. I've got some potatoes up in the Candu area and things like that, but faba beans, that's a crop that you see kind of north of 17 up in the northern tier counties, that they're being grown because there's interest in more plant-based protein.
But I hear you only have those when you have a nice Chianti in the cab with you.
I hate faba beans. I just hate that crop.
And anybody that ever squeezes mustard on a hot dog or on a sandwich or something, there's a pretty good chance that was grown in North Dakota somewhere.
Right.
That's a crop as well. Even worked with somebody that was growing parent seed. That was a first experience for me this year. I'd seen for mustard, which is a different way of growing seed. I won't go into it, but there's a lot of, I think in my career as an agronomist, I've worked with probably 17 different crops, and a lot of people just think of agronomy, they think maybe North Dakota wheat, soybeans, corn, but there's a lot more to it. There's a lot more to it, and there's a lot of opportunities. Of course, if you've got a lesser-known crop, you've probably better looked into where you can market it, maybe have a contract, because in that, or you're just going to hold it for quite a while.
And there's so many different types of edible beans that are grown in this part of the world too. That type of thing. And probably the other one that you don't consider a crop, but is honey.
Oh yeah, we're number 1 in honey in the state, or for the states.
Well, we got to hit a moment here, guys. We got to catch up with some of our sponsors. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation. If you have any questions you want to reach out to us, we'll get you queued up during the break. 701-293-9000 is the Red Wing Shoes phone line, and you can always reach us via email as well, weather or ag at flagfamily.com. We'll be back in just a couple short minutes, so stay tuned.
Attention harvest workers. Ogard Family Farms is looking for truck and tractor drivers to help them with the sugar beet harvest. No CDL is required, but you do need a valid driver's license. They offer full hookup campground, great pay, as well as overtime. Call today, 701-371-2180. That's 701-371-2180.
It's the Eyes on 45th Open House, September 18th, 19th, and 20th, 4 to 6 p.m. Stop in and be a part of the fudge making contest. There's giveaways and great deals in the store. Say hi to Deb and Dr. Tufty and meet the new eye docs on the team, Dr. Josh Stamos and Dr. Cody Ward. It's 4 to 6 p.m., September 18th, 19th, and 20th. It's Eyes on 45th Open House with prizes and some real surprises. Don't miss the open house. Eyes on 45th.
Hi, this is John from North Star Plumbing and Drain Cleaning. We have a great special during the month of September and October. $100 off water heaters. The coupon is on the website. How old is your water heater? And we are checking those sub pumps for fall too. And another $100 off kitchen and bathroom remodels. People are scheduling now, so give us a call at 701-367-9592 or visit us online at northstarplumbingnd.com. That's North Star Plumbing and Drain Cleaning.
Bridgette Readel, Ag Director here at Big Iron. Join myself, Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki, and Meteorologist Justin Storm. We'll be broadcasting Weather and Ag in Focus live from the Morton Building. Stop by and meet us today from 1 to 2 p.m. That's Weather and Ag in Focus live from the Morton Building. Stop by and meet us today from 1 to 2 p.m.
Family Fun is calling you to Chihinkapa Zoo.
It's lions and tigers and bears, oh my. And did I mention rhinos, cheetahs, and zebras? The Chihinkapa Zoo is now open for the 2023 season. The exhibits, all the attractions are waiting for your family or group. So many reasons to visit the Chihinkapa Zoo this summer. It all starts at the website, chihinkapazoo.org.
Fun is calling you to Chihinkapa Zoo.
The Chihinkapa Zoo.
I'm Bill Bradford, the proud new owner of Wheels Power Sports in Fargo. I'm a husband, father, entrepreneur, philanthropist, and outdoor enthusiast. At Wheels Power Sports, we pour our focus into our team and our customers. We know that if our team is happy and delivering a great experience to you, our customer, there's no way we can fail. We are here to get to know you and build a lasting relationship with you as soon as you walk in. It's our goal to earn your trust, respect your time, and treat you fairly. As you gear up for harvest season, we hope to see you for all your Polaris UTV needs and to take advantage of the exclusive egg offers only at Wheels Power Sports Fargo.
Mark your calendars and join the Coffee Club live on location at Shea West Garden Center September 15th for day 2 of the 3rd annual Apple Smash. This includes discount on garden decor and planters, crafts for the littles, a family photo op, fresh cider, and apple donuts. That's the 3rd annual Apple Smash. September 14th through 17th at Shea West Garden Center on the corner of Cheyenne and 40th West Fargo. Again, Cheyenne and 40th West Fargo.
Vengeance is coming. Terror at every turn. In a new breed of haunted house. American Monsters. Onion Head's Revenge. Only at Mall of America. Fear is here. See mallofamerica.com/American Monsters if you dare. Not for anyone with health concerns or under 10. But you're mine.
Weather and Ag in Focus on WDAY Radio.
And welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. Thanks for rejoining us. 1:54 on this Wednesday afternoon. I There we go. We got the fly that was on my head. Thank you, Dean. Appreciate that. No 68 degrees right now. A check on the currents around Fargo. Lots of sunshine out there. Southeast winds. 14 miles an hour, gusting to 23. But the rest of the afternoon out here at Big Iron, tomorrow and into the upcoming weekend, what's it going to look like? Dean, what's that forecast for the area?
We've got a cold front that's going to be approaching the area tomorrow. As it does, that's going to increase the clouds. Tomorrow, first off, starting off tomorrow morning, nowhere near as chilly as it was this morning, where many areas were in the 30s and 40s.
I find that really refreshing, though. Stepping outside and it's just.
It does feel good.
It feels nice. It feels good.
Let's not rush it.
Nothing like a little cold to remind you that you're alive.
Let's not rush it. All right, we got plenty of time for that, all right? We're looking at 50s to start off the day tomorrow and then warming up into the mid-70s as that cold front approaches in the afternoon. It will spark off a few scattered showers and thunder showers and switch our winds to the northwest. And behind that front, we cool it down for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, back into the lower 70s, and then it looks like we'll warm up into the upper 70s to lower 80s to start off next week. We're getting signs of a potential bigger storm coming in here by the middle of next week, which would give us a better chance for some widespread rain. We'll keep an eye on that. Still no signs of any big dumps of cold air coming in from Canada, so that's good. Let's keep this stretch of nice fall weather going, at least through the end of the month, and then we'll see what happens when we poke our nose into October. We got about 3 weeks? 3 weeks before the new LRC cycle starts there in that first week of October. So that'll be interesting to watch what October kind of holds around here. I know it was last few years have been pretty fun to watch, pretty active. So we'll kind of see what happens this year.
Okay, so what happens this year, not just in weather, but how about crop prognosis? What we think things are going to look like. So in my book, I think that our soybeans did pretty well. I feel like the corn fell behind, and I think sunflowers are going to be the sleeper as far as coming along and looking really good. But I'm going to ask our guests to one more time introduce themselves and then give their prognosis of where they think that's going to go. And I'm going to have Larry go first.
Larry Lunder. I am an agronomist in western North Dakota. I think we are going to see more beans next year. Probably less corn, perhaps more sunflowers. I think we're definitely going to see more canola, and I think we'll see a similar amount of small grains, if you want my prediction. It's probably not worth much, but that's my prediction.
It's okay. But I do agree with you. I don't know that the small grains are going to fall much further down.
No, I think for the pleasant surprise they got on small grains this year, that's a relatively easy thing to put in the ground, and pretty essential in that crop rotation, have an early season crop to have success with some of the corn and sunflowers later in the season, because you'll build a little moisture up, they'll collect some later season rain. So that's where I think it's going.
For me, Jason Hanson, I work as an agronomist and crop consultant up in that Devil's Lake area. We had a much better barley and wheat crop than we anticipated due to how dry it was. Our canola was coming off better than we thought. So everybody wants to quit canola, and then it does that. And then you're like, well, we'll plant more canola. And I thought we'd have more soybeans this year, and our corn was up. I think we'll see more corn next year. I think we always stay around the same amount for our cereals. It depends what our barley contracts were. When you have big barley crop, generally the contracts come down. Edibles probably the same or a little less. And, that'll probably be it. So my rotation doesn't change a whole lot. But we'll see. Our early crop, where we got some of our moisture, did better than we thought. Now our late crop, where we ran out of moisture, we'll see what that looks like. And everybody's kind of hoping that it stays the same trend. It was better than we thought. That'd be good.
That's a big positive right now. So, all right. It's been a good day at Big Iron. We have one more day to go tomorrow, guys.
Sure do. We'll be back out here tomorrow, late morning and throughout the afternoon. The show, again, 1 to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We appreciate everyone that stopped out and said hi this afternoon. We'll be sticking around for a few more hours, so try and find us walking around out here at Big Iron. And the weather
walking around, that's called
nice.
The beer garden.
Yeah, we'll be at the beer garden.
Try to flag me down on the cart. I might be moving fast.
Well, the Jay Thomas Show is coming up next. Everyone have a great rest of your day.